Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of our 2024 preseason power rankings. Where today we're moving to our fourth ranked team, the Houston Texans, a team that surprised absolutely everybody last offseason, last year. Every move they made seemed to be the right one, and it led to them winning their division under a new rookie head coach, rookie quarterback. and they've only gotten better, and they should only be getting better. And they're going to be a threat to absolutely everybody in the NFL, and are a threat to come out of the AFC right now, even in the second year of DeMeco Ryans, to be a Super Bowl team. That's how good this team can possibly be. But before we get into it, Pat, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Right? I'm excited to get into this team. The Texans are an exciting one, right? They are now in like this Bengals Chiefs kind of tier, and I love to see it. I really do, right? Because the Bills stepped out in the AFC. The Bills took that step down. They're no longer quite in that tier, so someone has to step up and compete with the Chiefs. I think this is a team that can definitely do it. Right, the Texans, I really like what they got going on there. I think they're a really, really fun watch. They have a lot of exciting players, and they're doing it the right way. This is a team that brought in a lot of homegrown talent, but they also are bringing in players that had experience somewhere else, right? And, they have that perfect balance. They have that perfect balance. I always like to talk about where we're ranking the team compared to other people. I think that this is one of the few on this list where we rank them pretty much where everyone else is, right?
Yeah.
The Texans we have as our number 4, and there's a good reason for that. It feels like everyone generally agrees this is a top 5 team in the NFL. And again, it's hard to dispute that because, man, they are good. But for me, the big question, we're going to get into this head coach and culture, right? Something we like to tackle in all these episodes, right?
Yeah.
They are young and they're getting a lot of hype from the media, including us, right? How will that affect them? Can they live up to it? That's the big question for them.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And that's a lot of pressure for these young guys to be under. But as we'll see when we get to this roster, it's pressure that we think these young guys can handle because they showed it not only last year, but development is surely to happen for a ton of these guys. In fact, some of these guys are coming back off injury. It wasn't a completely healthy team last year, and now you've added plus gotten your guys back. So let's talk about that head coach and culture with DeMeco Ryans, formerly defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, can we just say home run hit immediately?
Yeah, right.
You
right.
come into an organization that was awful the last couple of years post Deshaun Watson, and immediately turn around. I mean, you win your division. No one was thinking. I predicted this team to win like 4 games last year. I was not expecting a whole lot out of this, but one of the most exciting teams in the NFL, that culture that he immediately brought over, that this team desperately needed. He was a culture guy over at San Francisco too, and I mean, like that, this team changed in an instant, and now we're looking second year of his career with this team. This is a contender.
And I think part of the reason they were so competitive was because it wasn't just the young guys, right? The young guys were the stars, but they brought in some guys who have, been around, right? I would say Laramie Tunsil, right? That's someone who's kind of been homegrown. Although he did used to play for Miami, he's been in the league for a very long time.
Yeah.
Long time, right? They brought in Jimmy Ward, who is DeMeco Ryans' guy, right? There was a lot of homegrown, at least grown under DeMeco Ryans, or grown in that Texans organization, guys on that team to kind of teach the youth, here's what you got to do, here's how you're going to have to do it. And, it was a really, really fun team to watch because I am a true believer, called me old-fashioned, but I'm a true believer that bringing in vets like that really elevate the play of your younger players. But I feel like as a head coach, its head coaching culture, I think is bound to win games, right? Even though they're young, I don't think they care about the noise. They're going to live up to it. One of the key things for a good head coach, though, especially coming in their rookie year as a head coach, or first year as a head coach, if you don't mind if I move on from the head coaching culture here, is there anything else you want to add? All right, cool.
No.
One of the most important things for a first-year head coach is bringing in the right staff, right? And I got to say, D'Amico Ryans nailed it, bringing in Bobby Slowick to call plays, be the offensive coordinator.
Yes,
I'm a big
absolutely.
fan of that offense, how it was run, and how he was able to get the most out of a C.J. Stroud, out of a Tank Dell, out of a Nico Collins. It was really, really impressive. How do you feel about this offensive scheme under Bobby Slowick?
Like we say with Shanahan offensive head coaches, they have who have a type when it comes to defensive coordinators. The Shanahan defensive head coaches have a type when it comes to offensive coordinators, and that is Shanahan. This is standard West Coast Shanahan scheme. The standard stuff we talk about, like we talk about in every other video. A lot of choice routes, running the football, zone plays, and he did it. Bobby Slowick was not only the Shanahan system, which works, it's proven to work in the league. He was so creative when it came to motion last year, when it came to getting his guys open, getting uh, CJ Stroud, who we'll touch on soon, good rhythm and good timing. It was never, we're not looking at Luke Getsy and we've got two routes in the exact same space.
Yeah.
It's a lot of great spacing, good timing, a lot of motion. I thought Slowick did a fantastic job last year. Now, I think there are some people who are like, oh man, he's going to get a head coaching gig year one. I wasn't quite
It
there
was
on
very close
Slowick.
to happening.
It was close to happening. I wasn't quite there on Slowick. I was like, relax. There were definitely some games where I thought the play calling uh, got a little stale, but that doesn't mean it was year one.
Mm-hmm.
He had a rookie quarterback. That doesn't mean it's not going to get better. But there is room for improvement for this offense, which is really scary, which is terrifying, really.
I think that there's kind of three elements of the Shanahan offense that he really, really hits on. The ideology of establishing the run to establish the pass, right? They weren't even that good of a rushing offense last year, but they really wanted to threaten teams with that run game because even if you're not good running the ball, if you run the ball a lot or you come at teams with heavier personnel packages, they are going to overplay the run no matter what, no matter how good you are at running the football. It's something Brian Daboll used to do with the Bills, right? And that creates passing lanes for a CJ Stroud. That is one thing from the Shanahan scheme that he continues to do. It's weird. He runs more of that older Shanahan, like the first 2 years in San Fran type of Shanahan scheme. Motion is, of course, a big thing. He loves his motion, right? But the run game, right? It's very similar concepts. Inside zone, outside zone. That's what they like to run here.
Yep.
Not much gap. It's very zone heavy.
Very zone heavy.
And then the third thing and the most important thing for especially the traditional Shanahan scheme, make it look like something until it isn't. All about misdirection. Bobby is a big, big fan of that ideology, and he loves to do it. Loves to do it. It's a very, very consistent thing. Now, what does he do that's a little bit untraditional for Shanahanian guys? And I guess not too untraditional, but I don't think there's any offensive coordinator that does it quite as much. He's perfectly fine running 2-man, 3-man route concepts. Like, he is not going to be running scat protection. Like, that's not really what he does. He makes it hard on Stroud because he'll give Stroud time, but he's not going to have many options with his routes, okay? He's going to have 3 receivers running routes, and he's going to have to throw the ball in the right spot and kind of throw them open because there's not going to be many receivers running routes. And I think that's why there's such an emphasis on bringing in the right wide receivers here. Because if you're only going to have 3 guys running a route on most of your passing plays or a larger portion of your passing plays than every other team in the NFL, your receivers better win on their route. And, I mean, we look at these receivers. We're going to look at them later. They're going to win on their routes. And C.J. Stroud is going to throw them open. Stroud is great at executing the play fake. It's one of his biggest strengths. It's one thing I really, really like about him. And they really take advantage of that. The amount of play action with maybe 8 people in protection, it happens a lot more than it happens for other teams, and it still works really, really well for them.
Right. And let's get into CJ Stroud now. Rookie of the year, one of the top quarterbacks in the league last year, had one of the best rookie seasons for a quarterback last year, ever. And I had my words really early on CJ Stroud. I didn't think he was going to be bad. I didn't think CJ Stroud was going to be this good personally. I wasn't as high as him as some other people. And we're talking 3 weeks of the season. I was making apology videos on TikTok. Like, man, I was really wrong. This kid can play. And he does everything from a processing standpoint to an accuracy standpoint. Anywhere he wants to put the football goes. But what really impressed me when it came to him was his pocket presence and ability to play under pressure.
Something he was weak with in
He was
college.
weak at it in college.
Yeah, he was bad at
it.
It
happened because it didn't happen in college. He was behind an insane offensive line. And that's one of the things I was worried about. Is like, how is he going to handle NFL pressure? How's that going to affect things? Nope. He doesn't get affected
All
by pressure.
he had was, I want to say, the Georgia. Am I remembering right?
Just Georgia.
Georgia was the only game the entire season where he was playing under pressure. But here was my thing, and this is why I was a big Stroud guy. He looked great.
Yeah.
He looked great. It was just, we only saw that once. But I loved the accuracy. I don't think there's another receiver better at getting the ball from exactly point A to exactly, precisely, right on the money point B as consistently as a CJ Stroud. And, I've been very vocal about this. I think going into his sophomore year, he's the second best quarterback in football. Right? I truly do feel that way. I'm a big CJ Stroud guy. I think he can make plays, backyard football, when the play breaks down, way better than people give him credit for. I think he can place the ball it's spot on consistently. The play fake, the processing, everything about him is where it needs to be at a very, very high level. The only knock is he only did it for 1 year. And that might be true, but I don't see a single reason on film to believe that he won't do it again, right?
Yeah.
Another thing that I forgot to mention, the decision making. Spot on. Spot on. There's a reason he threw, 5 picks on the season? Right? Yeah. Ridiculous.
There's another thing I want to say in the sense of he is either right behind Tua or on par with Tua when it comes to anticipatory throwing. He is one of the best top 2 anticipatory throwers in the league, man. He's throwing before Tank Dell makes the break. It's absurd watching him work, and I'm excited to see what he's got to do this season. Again, I don't see a season where it gets worse. Maybe he stays stagnant. Maybe that's his sophomore slump, is he doesn't get better than he was, but that's okay because he was really good last year.
Yes,
Texans are going to be fine regardless.
Yep.
But then behind them, you do have Case Keenum or Davis Mill, and both of them are fine backups. If you're putting them both in, you're not feeling great, but you can't do worse.
You look at the supporting cast around them; they'll win a game or two, right?
They'll win a game.
You trust them. But let's get to that supporting cast, right? Is this receiver trio the best in football?
I think I'd still take the Bears, but it's close.
That's fair. But this is a damn good one, right? That's the conversation surrounding this team, right? Their receiving core, I feel very confident, is the best in the NFL because it is really deep. But those top 3 guys, honestly, the top 4, I think all of them can either be slightly above middle of the pack 1 or high end 2. Yeah. All four, right?
I agree.
We start with Nico Collins, who I think most people agree creme de la creme of this group, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not particularly close now. Yeah, Nico Collins was one of the best receivers in football last year. That's only going to keep happening, and as he's still developing. He's still a young receiver that's still developing, going into year 2 with this young rookie quarterback. Yeah, no, Nico Collins is in for a big season. The guy's a freak. He's 6'4", 220. He's fast. He has such good body control when it comes to his route running, coming along the sideline. He has fantastic ball tracking and hands. I mean, he is the definition of an X outside receiver. Yes. And Nico Collins, he's in for a big season, especially around this team.
He can play all those roles, too. You need someone that can make plays after the catch. He could do it. You need someone that could be that good route runner that's going to get open. He does that, right? You need someone that could be a possession guy for you. He could do that, too. He could do everything at a pretty good level, right? Yes. And I think that well-rounded skill set is kind of the base for the argument for him being, the best receiver on the team. But I feel like if you're not saying him, you're probably saying Diggs, Stephon Diggs, their new addition. I find the narratives around Diggs at this point very strange because even like looking at your reaction, I feel like everyone agrees Diggs is still good. He's just not
Yes,
what he used
yes,
to be.
I agree.
But that,
I think Diggs, funny enough, is in that Keenan Allen tier. I think Diggs is quarterback's best friend, slot receiver, gets open. I
yeah,
think that's fine. I think there's a world where Tank Dell is better than that this year, as like just like
that's
is
fair.
better this year. But like yes, if we're looking at it right now, I would say Diggs is better,
Yeah.
better. But there's a world where Tank Dell stays healthy and he's nuclear. So,
The
but anyway,
comparison to
back,
Keenan Allen, right,
yeah,
is an interesting one just because they're both nuanced route runners, but I think
yes.
Diggs has the thing that Keenan Allen doesn't, and it is that he still has a little bit more speed to him. Right? He still
He
has
has
a
a.
little bit more
I think
separation.
he's got more short area
Yes.
speed
Yes.
than Keenan Allen. When it came, because like that was part of the issue with Buffalo last year. Is the short area quickness was there. It seemed like he lost a little juice when it came to it, like explosive plays, vertical plays down the field.
Yeah.
I definitely don't expect that to come back. I think he's kind of in this area now. But when it comes to short area quickness, get the ball in his hands quickly, first down. I think you can do that still. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a reason this was still one of the most targeted receivers in football last year. It's because
Yeah.
he was still getting open. Right, that's
Yes.
the thing, and that's the name of the game at receiver. You could win contested catches, right? And that's something Keenan Allen still does. He wins contested catches. Stephon Diggs doesn't do that quite as well, but he could still get open, and that's the name of the game. There's always a role for receivers that can get open, and Diggs at this point he could still do that. Okay. If you ask me, I would say he's the second best receiver on this team, but I'm not going to knock you for saying Tank Dell is the second best because Tank Dell is also really good at football.
Yes. Yes, he is. Tank Dell. I mean, he. It's funny. They all kind of match up in a way with the Bears trio that we're talking about. Nico Collins, the Dune. If we're talking play style, Dunze, Diggs, the Keenan Allen, and Tank Dell maybe the more in the sense of just fast. I mean, Tank Dell's not a big dude. We all know Tank Dell's small. Tank Dell's a small individual. It doesn't matter because luckily in today's league, there's not a lot of press man coverage, and Bobby Slowick loves to put his guys in motion and make it hard to touch them. And when you don't touch Tank Dell off the line of scrimmage, good luck. He's really fast, fantastic route runner. I mean, fantastic route runner. Great separation like that. He's this team's true vertical threat, I would say, with his speed. Like Nico Collins can absolutely do it too. He's absolutely a vertical threat. But Tank Dell's the like deep threat. We're throwing it 60 yards downfield and stride to Tank Dell. But yeah, he was actually someone I didn't expect to catch the ball over the middle of the field as much as he did last year. He didn't do it a ton in college.
Well, it
But
was
like
because of the play action drawing the linebackers up. They were able to do that consistently.
yes, and I just wouldn't think like, oh, you're sending guys 160 pounds soaking wet over the middle of the field. Tank Dell could do it. He didn't care.
Yeah.
He took contact. He was fine. He was great. I love Tank Dell. There's a season where there's a season where maybe he leads this not a season. There's a reality where maybe he leads his team in receiving yards. Like he's got that kind of talent and big
But
playability.
in order for that to happen, it can't be like last year. He can't get hurt again. If he
Yes.
does get hurt, though, I don't think the Texans are taking too much damage because you look at the rest of this receiver core. I don't want to go too in depth with each of these guys, but we definitely could because it is that good of a unit.
Yes.
I mentioned it on some other episode. I forgot which, but I genuinely think you could take the wide receiver 4, 5, and 6, and it would be better than some of the receiver cores in the NFL. Or some of the top 3 receivers on some of these NFL teams, right? Noah Brown. I'm a big Noah Brown guy. Great possession receiver. Great
Yes, he
possession
is.
guy. That is truly his role. He's going to win 50-50 balls. He's going to be a vertical guy for you, too. Right? He could catch the ball downfield. He could track the ball well. Robert Woods is more of like a gadget guy at this point. Right? He's someone that could take a jet sweep and, take it far. He's a yak threat even still. And he still is a decently nuanced route runner. And then John Mechie. Do you have overwhelming thoughts on John Mechie? Are you a big John Mechie guy? Because I know some people are.
Some people are, not me really. I do see him being like ideal wide. Like I think this guy's an ideal wide receiver 4 to good wide receiver 3 at his ceiling, and that's good. That's nice to have on this team considering you have 3 really good receivers. So John Mechie's good. He's fine. I don't think he's any overwhelming talent.
Mm-hmm.
And we
He's
also,
a well-rounded guy.
the leader of the Xavier Hutchinson fan club happens to,
Yes.
be on this series.
I do. I take pride in that name, Xavier Hutchinson. Well-rounded guy, right? I don't want to go too in-depth on their wide receiver 7, but he's a well-rounded guy, can run very good routes, very, very dominant at the catch point. I truly feel that way. He can do damage in the slot because of his route running. He isn't overwhelmingly fast, but every other aspect of his game, the reliability with his hands, the ability to settle versus zone, very high caliber. I'm really hoping he gets a little bit more of a role this year. He came in late last year after Tank Dell went down, and they gave him some screen passes. Like, they wanted to see him kind of do some stuff after the catch, and I don't really think that's his game, but he was fine while doing it. I want to see him, lined up either outside or in the slot, and I want to see him do damage as a route runner. I want to see him, run a flag route. I want to see him, run a slant on a third down because I think he'll get open. I want to see him run a goal line fade because I think he could do that too. This is a very talented receiver. I think once they kind of start to take advantage of that, they're going to be nuclear. Ben Skoranek is another receiver I like. Really good blocker.
Yeah,
All these guys are good blockers.
He kind of played that H-back role.
Yeah.
With the Rams when he was there.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move off these receivers now, and let's move over to the tight ends, where Dalton Schultz comes over from Dallas last year. One of CJ Stroud's favorite targets. He's not an overwhelming talent, but he's a really smart tight end who knows how to settle into zones and underneath his zones. And CJ Stroud with his timing and his decision making, it's a really good combo. Just gets open, gets the ball quickly, boom.
Yeah, and we only have 4 teams left, and we're getting to the point where the traditional tight end phrase has been said ad nauseum now, but this is like one of the leaders in that movement, right?
Yes.
He is very traditional tight end. That is now an adjective, okay? Because there are so many guys like him, but he's probably, if not the best, one of the best at it, right? Very, very effective as, a zone settler, someone that can be open on check down, very, very consistent in that way. Then we move over to the depth at tight end. They have some guys here I find very interesting. Yeah.
Jordan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just said Jordan Brevin. Brevin Jordan, thank you, out of Miami. Good blocker.
Brevin Jordan out of Miami. He's traditional receiving, not traditional, I should say, sorry. A receiving tight end. Like, this guy is somebody you want running routes, getting the ball in his hands, making plays after the catch. And we saw that last year. There was a play where I believe it was a screen pass, and he took it 75 yards for a touchdown. Like, he's a stellar athlete. Nice, like, he could play the big slot, which he did for a little bit last year. Really nice to have on the team. And I do want to touch on their rookie that they got in the 4th round this year, Cade Stover. I wasn't overwhelmed by his tape or anything, but we have to recognize, this guy went to Ohio State. This guy played with C.J. Stroud, right? Maybe there's some connection there. Maybe C.J. Stroud knows more than we do. He's this team's tight end 3, and you feel really good about the 3 guys at the top of their tight end room.
Yeah. I also think we didn't really hit much on the tight end's blocking ability, right?
Yes.
Schultz is someone you trust as a blocker. I like Brevin Jordan as a blocker. He was pretty good at that in Miami, right? I know you project him to play that big slot role, but he could go out there as a traditional inline tight end and block, and block well. Yeah. And then Cade Stover, he's kind of like a freak of nature athlete. It's just about, making that and taking it to the next level. I like their tight end room a lot, especially those 3.
I do too.
But then we'll move on to running back. Right.
So this is the one area I actually think they kind of downgraded. Not downgraded. I think they took a lateral move.
Really?
I didn't think Joe Mixon was anything special in Cincinnati.
But you don't think he's better than Singletary?
I thought Singletary was really good last year for this team. I thought Singletary was really good for
this
team.
Like during that 3-week span, sure, but what about
Take it like this. I don't think he's elite, but at this point, after what I saw last year from Mixon, I also don't think Mixon's elite. I think they're on the same level.
Really?
I think.
Okay.
I
think the difference between me and you is how much you think of Devin Singletary, clearly.
Yeah, I thought Devin Singletary looked pretty damn good behind this.
There was games, but overall in the season, like, besides that 3-game stretch, I'm not too optimistic about Singletary. But I know that
I
Mixon
I
can
also
do this
feel
consistently.
but that's sure. I also feel the exact same way about Joe Mixon after what I saw with Cincinnati last year. I thought he was okay. I thought he was
Yeah.
fine considering how much they're paying Mixon
Oh,
compared to
that's
how
fair.
much they
But
would
they
have
can
had to
afford
pay
to pay.
Singletary. Yeah, they could afford to pay him absolutely. But again, considering how much you're paying him to how much you could have afforded to pay Singletary, who even if he's not as good as Mixon, is really close in my opinion because I'm not that high in Mixon anymore. I don't know. I think it's a bit of a lateral step, but they have the money to do so, and it's running back. It doesn't matter as much as something like a
They just
receiver.
want to be able to threaten teams with the run. That's all they want to do. Then we got Dameon Pierce as the backup running back. More of a power guy, will fall forward consistently. But last year was not great for him. It was not a great
No.
showing. And then beyond that, we have Dare Ogunbowale. I think that's right. That was about right.
That was good. That was pretty
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Soon to be kicker for this team.
Yeah. I forgot about that. I forgot about those conversations. But yeah, no, he's someone I think in preseason he's kind of showed a little bit like of as an RB3 you'll put him out there a little bit as a pass catcher he can do some damage in space, and then Cam Akers is also here. I think he's worth mentioning. I kind of gave up on Cam Akers at this point.
I gave up on Cam Akers like 2 years ago, man. There's some people who are just like, he's finally here. It's finally going to show out. And I'm like, just let it go. Just let it go, man.
And then, of course, we got to mention the fullbacks, right? Because if I didn't, one of my podcast co-hosts would kill me. Andrew Beck is on this team. Apparently, he's in more of like a fullback battle for a roster spot with Troy Hairston. Troy Hairston is more of like an exciting young guy with more athleticism, but Beck is someone that can kind of do it all. Good blocker and a good utility guy. Both of them are kind of well-rounded players more than anything, but I think Hairston being the exciting young name can go out there and do some damage. But now I want to get over to this offensive line. How do you feel about this unit? Last year, this O-line got hurt. And they were still
got hurt. And even so, this was a good offense.
But I also think this is a scheme that kind of protects the offensive line because of how much 8-man protection, 7-man protection they are doing. That being said, I look at the starters. Maybe they don't have to do that as much this year because, I like what I see here. I do.
I do too, and it really starts with left tackle Laramie Tunsil, Miami Dolphins legend Laramie Tunsil. He is, when healthy, one of the best tackles in football, man. Yeah. From everything he does, he might be the best pass blocking left tackle in the league.
I wouldn't disagree. And if you need an example of that, look at the Browns game against Myles Garrett. There were plays where Myles Garrett tried to swipe his hands away, just stayed put. Not many players can do that against Myles Garrett.
No,
not many.
He had a fantastic outing against the best edge rusher in the league, and he's no slouch when it comes to run blocking either. He's a fantastic run blocker, man. So
absolutely,
he's great. He's the anchor of this offensive line. Next to him, you have Kenyon Green, who they selected in the first round, who's kind of taking his time to come into his own. I still think he's got to come into his own a little more. I thought he was better last season, but definitely still a player you're hoping develops and can. He's a good athlete.
He's not looking like a liability anymore.
Yes.
I'll give him that. And I look at this offensive line. I think he might be the weak. It's either him or the center. Might be the weak link, and that leaves me in a spot where I feel good. I feel good. If he's your weakest link, you feel good.
And I have an idea that I'll run by you, but when we get there. But let's move to center Juice Scruggs. I didn't like him coming out of college last year. They took him in the second round. I didn't like what he put on tape last year. Not saying he can't get better. He is an athlete, so he can. But
I like him as a zone blocker. I think that's what he's here to do more than anything, because that's kind of what he ran, at Penn State, right?
Penn State. Yeah.
That being said, you're right. He wasn't impressive last year. I thought he put some fine reps on. He's someone you can run behind a little bit. I do think a little bit of a better run blocker than pass blocker, but I still didn't really think he was overly effective at either. Yeah. And that's, again, where I entertain, is he the weakest link here? Maybe. It's either him or Green.
And then next to him, we get back to talking good, where we have Mason Graham. Shaq Mason Graham. Sorry.
See, there you go. I screwed up a name earlier. Now it's your turn.
Yeah.
Shaq Mason from Tampa.
Go to Shaq Mason. Shaq Mason from Tampa. They just kind of picked him up Like I
Yeah, they
remember last
traded
year
for
they
him.
traded for him out of nowhere, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll just get Tampa, who didn't have a great offensive line, by the way. We're like,
Hmm.
yeah, we'll just you guys
Yeah,
can have
trade over one of the better guards in football.
we'll give you one
Yeah.
of the better guards in football for not that much, so
Mhm.
you can have him, guys." And guess what?
Very
he was
good.
damn good for this
Very
team. He
good.
was very good.
Considering how the two tackles went down with injury, he was probably their best offensive lineman last year. He probably had the best season out of these three, or out of anyone in this O line. Mason is again someone that could go out there. I really like what he does in the run game, but man, in pass protection, he's extremely reliable. Extremely reliable. He's very effective as his own blocker, but man, he makes his game as a pass blocker. Makes his game.
Yes, and then you get to the right tackle, and you get to Titus Howard, who has his ups and downs as a player.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really uh, good athlete, big guy. Um, who has to unfortunately deal with some injuries these
Mm-hmm.
last couple seasons, and but when he's on the field, like there are some games where he does it feels like he's a liability for sure, but like for the most part, I think he's a pretty good right
I
tackle.
think as of late, he's really while on the field, really come to his
Oh
own, been a good player, right? That's how I look at it. I think as of late, he's kind of returned
yeah,
to form. Uh, but again, early in his career, he was a little bit we really spent a first rounder on this guy, really. But I think there's a reason he got paid, right? He's a good player. They also drafted Blake Fisher, who I thought was a very raw prospect. He's someone that might be able to go out there because their tackles have an injury history, and I think that's the main reason they did draft him. But being a raw player, I don't think either of us are expecting him to start year one, right?
maybe not start, but he's gonna get play time because these tackles are gonna go down
Yes.
with injuries,
Yes,
so he's
exactly.
gonna
I mean,
play.
he won't be
Yeah.
on the starting lineup, right?
Yes.
If they start him, it won't really be by their will. But I think as a backup tackle, again, we saw how their backups looked last year. They were fine. I think he'll be fine, right?
Yes.
But he is a very raw player.
He's
So,
a red. He was a red shirt. He declared as a red shirt sophomore. A red shirt sophomore.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just yeah.
So we'll see what happens with him. Now I want to move over to our offensive superlatives. Who do you have as your offensive player of the year?
I mean, I can't pick anybody but C.J. Stroud.
Yeah,
Man.
right.
So
He's going to be the guy distributing it to all of those great weapons, right? And he himself is a heck of a weapon because of what he could do off script and how he could execute in structure. And pretty much everything he does is crazy effective. Offensive Rookie of the Year, who do you have?
offensive rookie. There's not
This
really.
one,
There's
I
two
think
to
there's two
talk about
options.
here.
There's two.
Yeah, there's two options. I'm gonna probably go with Fisher because not because I think he'll start, but
But Tunsil goes
one of these
down.
tackles is gonna go down
Yeah.
at least at some point, and he's got to come in and be a pretty good player.
It's between that and Stover, right?
Yeah.
And listen, I'm really excited for I'm calling it now, right? The Texans, they're gonna late in the playoffs, they're gonna I'm hoping this happens because it would be really funny. But Texans late in the playoffs, they're about to win, right? They're down 3, 6 seconds left. They're going for the touchdown. They throw a Hail Mary, and it's to Cade Stover, and he drops it. I'm so excited to post it's Stover. I'm so excited to post that. And I'm really hoping Cade Stover becomes irrelevant enough or relevant enough for people to understand the reference. But yeah, I'm also going Fisher because of exactly what you said. Both these tackles have an injury history. I hope Stover, again, becomes relevant because he's fun and because funny Stover. But yeah, I agree with your offensive rookie of the year. Do you have
You
your
have
12th man or X Factor?
I do not.
Okay. I have my 12th man. I have Brevin Jordan.
Okay. Very
I
cool.
think they're going to run a decent amount of 12 personnel, and when they're running that, I think Brevin Jordan's going to go out there and do damage. Actually,
No.
I say
I'm
that,
gonna
but
make,
now I want to go back and say Noah Brown.
Yeah, I kind of want to say Noah Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Noah Brown.
Yeah, Noah Brown is also mine. I was like,
Noah Brown.
Brevin Jordan I think is going to go out there, but Noah Brown is just a better player.
Yeah,
And
no better player, and
he's either going to rotate in or a receiver's going to go down. One of those. But even as a rotational guy, he's going to kill it. He's a really good player. Right. Once again. Now move over to the defense, right? Starting with the scheme. DeMeco Ryans' defense, right? They, of course, have a defensive coordinator, but it's DeMeco Ryans that runs the show, right?
Yeah.
And it's similar to Salah's defense and some of the other Shanahan guys and how they run their defense. 4-2-5, 4 down front. They're not going to do much, stunts or blitzes. They don't do much. It's very simple, 4-man rush. They like to run quarters out of 2 high and then cover 3 out of 1 high.
Yeah.
That's what they do, man. And you know what? It works because you coach it up really well. You could just do 2 things on the back end, and if you're that good at it, it won't matter. It won't matter. They run quarters when it's like 3rd and long in their 2 high set, and then when it's 1st and 10, they'll run that cover 3 out of their 1 high. Look, they don't really mix it up too much because they don't need to, because they're that good at running what they run. When I say quarters, I mean match quarters, of course, not spot drop quarters. That's really just something, in terms of spot drop quarters, that's something you only run on pretty much prevent situations.
It's like prevent. Yeah, it's essentially prevent.
And then when I say cover 3, I mean match cover 3. This is not like a Gus Bradley spot drop type of situation. They like to run these zone concepts with match principles, with man principles.
With man principles,
right?
Yeah.
So, corners are going to be reading the releases of the wide receiver, and then depending on that dictates whether they're going man or zone. If you could communicate that well, that goes really well if your players are consistently on the same page. If they aren't, that's when it goes poorly. But luckily for them, DeMeco Ryans is a great defensive coach. He coaches them up and makes sure they're always on the same page.
And that's what I was going to say. DeMeco Ryans does a really great job coaching this defense up and making sure mentally they're all on the same page. Yeah.
Exactly. There is not much that the guys up front have to do mentally. The D linemen, they are just, here's your rush lane. You're not doing a stunt. You're just rushing, right? Very simple 4-man rush. But when you have good players, you don't really need to get creative up there. But
exactly.
Where on this defense do you want to jump into first?
Let's start with the defensive line. Let's start with the defensive line, and let's start with their other rookie of the year, because, yes, they had 2. Yes, they knocked the draft out of the park last year. Will Anderson Jr., who, fantastic player coming out of college, saw him as this, a lot of people, including myself, had him as a blue-chip prospect, and he looked the part, man. He's a damn good – I was a bit interested to see how he would be in a traditional 4-3 or 4-2 kind of scheme where he's playing that 4-2 defensive end, because he is on the lighter side when it came to being a defensive end. But he's so strong. It doesn't matter, man. He's so unbelievably strong.
Yeah. And his get-off is crazy. His get-off is the reason he was taken as early as he was, right?
Yes.
When you have the combination of a good get-off and good play strength, you're fine. That's all you need, really.
It doesn't matter, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're 243 pounds and a 4-3, because you're too athletic, too strong for these guys to handle.
Exactly. Right. I'm a big fan of Will Anderson. I thought a lot of the hate he was kind of getting pre-draft was unwarranted. I feel like people kind of underestimated how effective he was as this, just dominant pass rusher. Right. I think people underrated that.
Because it's also not just the strength and the get off. He's technical. He's a very nice technical pass rusher. He's a very technical run defender, edge setter.
Yes. I think that's the big thing too. Very, very disciplined. Year 1 as a rookie, he was making plays, and I was I'm honestly just fitting the run in ways that made me say, is that a 10-year veteran or a rookie?
Yeah.
Because he had such a good feel for pushing the run back in, right? And leveraging himself in a way that allowed the other players to go ahead and get work, when I see other rookies going out there and kind of just trying to make the plays themselves. He is such a team player in how he plays. I love Will Anderson. He was legitimately a vet in his rookie year.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And then next to him on the other, well, not next to him, but on the other side, they're big free agent fish, one of them, Danielle Hunter coming over from Minnesota, who, you want to talk about we were talking about, was Will Anderson going to be a 4-3 defensive end coming out of college? Danielle Hunter's a 4-3 defensive end, man. He's 6'5", 260 pounds, and we know from his time in Minnesota, this guy can rush the passer.
So the question was, why was he dropping back into coverage in the past couple of years?
Because Brian Flores he likes to do that.
He likes to do it, but it was kind of a misutilization of talent. Now it's not going to happen.
There's a reason he likes his outside. There's a reason he likes Andrew Van Ginkel.
Yes, a lot more than Danielle Hunter. Not because Van Ginkel's better, although Van Ginkel's damn good. It's because Danielle Hunter isn't quite the scheme fit there. He is a scheme fit here. So you thought he was good last year and the years before that? Wait until you see this year. Right.
Yes.
Just wait, because I know he's older, but I'm expecting him to kind of return to form. Even though he was good last year, I'm expecting him to kind of take a step back into like that. Danielle Hunter.
In a scheme that utilizes him.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And he's the complementary guy here. That's where I'm really
he's not the edge one. That's Will Anderson. He's the complementary.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I'm like, man, they are going to do a lot of I like Grenard last year. He was good. He wasn't Danielle Hunter.
Not Danielle Hunter.
It's going to be fun to watch. But then we move over to the interior. And I'm not going to say I'm worried because I think they have guys here that are fine. Yeah. But it's a step back because they lost Sheldon Rankins, who was a heck of a pass rusher from the interior. Who do you think helps fill that role for them? Do you think anyone will?
Probably Mario Edwards. Mario Edwards is more of a pass rusher than a run specialist. He was fine in pass rush last year. Not Sheldon Rankins or anything like that, but I think he'll help fill in that role. And then but that's kind of it in this group. I don't really see anybody else doing a whole lot else.
Well, I see other guys that could fit the run. I do.
Yeah, I meant for the
as a pass rusher. Yeah,
as a pass rusher.
Mm-hmm. He is the only one I really trust much as a pass rusher, but even then, he isn't Sheldon Rankins. Tim Settle, though, is someone I like a lot against the run. He currently is listed as a starter, but I'm expecting that to change. I think he'll be a nice rotational guy. You keep him on there first and second down, then third down, you rotate in. Maybe you put Jerry Hughes on the interior? Maybe? Or maybe you bump Jerry Hughes outside, because they do have Jerry Hughes as a backup edge. Jerry Hughes outside.
Jerry Hughes is Jerry Hughes is 250 pounds. I don't know if he can. I don't think he can play the interior.
Yeah, so maybe you put him at edge. You're right there. You're right there. Maybe you put him at edge and then you move Danielle Hunter inside, but even he's not too big.
Maybe on like pass rush.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying third down situations.
Yeah, you could do that. No, you could totally do that.
That's purely what I'm talking about here. I was saying Tim Settle plays first and second down. Then on third down, third and long specifically, is when you go ahead and throw the, Danielle Hunter as a defensive tackle or 3-tech type situation out there. But, I mean, I'm fine with not going to try Fatukasi?
Yeah, Fatukasi.
Thank you. He's someone I'm fine with. I think he could do a decent amount.
He was okay in Jacksonville. He was fine in Jacksonville.
But I think Settle is more of their guy. Two should start at least, and then situationally is when you're going to want to pull it. Because Tim Settle can't play every down. He can't. And I think they would have really benefited from bringing in, I mean, I don't really know who was available, but someone who could play, that pass rush specialist on the interior type of role. Even later in the draft, right? It was definitely a need. But Jerry Hughes is a nice edge for depth. It's a defensive line I like. I just wish it was more deep on the interior. Hey, so we just looked back during the middle of our special teams section, and we just forgot Danico Autry was on this team. He's suspended for 6 weeks, so we kind of gave a preview of how that D-line looks without him. But if he plays, that's big. That's who's going to play that extra D-line role, next to Mario Edwards with Tim Settle, make that a little bit more of a rotation going on there. He's going to be very important for them, help fill out that Sheldon Rankins role. Yeah, just figured we should go back and re-record that. Anything overwhelming with Danico Autry I didn't hit on?
He's not on the depth chart right now because he's suspended. So we just completely glossed over, and I looked down, and they have this little reserve section at the bottom, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah. And I completely agree with you. And let's move to the players right behind them, those linebackers. A really interesting room. I'm excited to see how this plays out because they did lose Blake Cashman, who was the best linebacker last year, to the Vikings. There's a lot of transactions between these two teams. Not between them, but players going to the other team. Daniel Hunter coming here, Jonathan Grenard and Blake Cashman going there. Anyway,
clearly they like something they saw.
Yeah. And But anyway, let's get into it. And I kind of want to start with the guy who presumably playing the mic in Aziz Al-Shair. And he was he was really good with San Francisco. And then he goes over to Tennessee. He's not bad, but he's not quite as good.
But here's the
Then,
thing. He's back with D'Amico.
yes.
And
Yes.
because of that, I think now there's no longer a Dre Greenlaw and a Fred Warner to really steal the show from you. I think he's going to emerge as a stud, man. I do.
he should.
I think
I
with
think he should.
Christian Harris right there, I think Aziz Al-Shair is going to really ball out.
Yes.
Ball out. Because he's still a younger guy. He's not, like, old, you know?
No.
He's someone that could go out there, be a freak next to another freak in Christian Harris. And then I guess when they run that 4-3, I'm expecting them to base at a 4-2-5, personally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Me too.
And because of that, I don't think Henry To'oTo'o is going to be on the field much, but if hypothetically he is, I still think Aziz Al-Shair is going to stand out as more of a freak than even a Christian Harris, right? He's a good coverage guy, is able to read his run fit the run really well, and then go out there, make plays when people are trying to run routes over the middle. Make plays. He's a hard hitter, freak athlete. He does damage.
And then we've been touching on Christian Harris. Christian Harris also a freak, man. Now he's not. I don't think he's as good against the run, or as good as he's still got to work on that. But
I think he has the ability to be a really good run defender, though.
I think so too. But as a coverage guy, he was great last year for this team. And not only that, he was a really good blitzer. Like he was a really good blitzer for this team last year. And I expect that to stay the same. I think Christian Harris is entering. We're entering year 3 of the Christian Harris time, and that's only going to get he's only going to get better. Year 3 is really when those athletic linebackers tend to show I'm here to play.
So my thing, right, is I look at Christian Harris. He was good last year, but I think more than anything, you want to talk about one play that really showed off his motor more than anything. In the playoff game against the Ravens, they had him as like the QB spy. He would rush. He was like a rush spy, right? So he would rush, and then when he engaged with the lineman, he would read Lamar and just chase him. You can't do that unless you're a freak athlete. And when I tell you he was chasing him sideline to sideline, I mean it. And he was beating him to the sideline. He was beating him. He wasn't able to get to the line of scrimmage, right?
Yep.
To do that with Lamar Jackson? And then Lamar Jackson would try and work his moves. And he got really close to having them work out. But Christian Harris, he would wrap around him. He might not be able to get his full body on him, but he would bring him down with one arm, right? And that's the type of freak athlete that makes a defense that, might be simplistic from a schematic perspective, really, really shine.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. Is there anybody else you want to touch on in this linebacker room?
I will say, much like their defensive line, they're not overly deep.
No,
and that's
which we might be able to say about the next group too.
I mean, Henry To'oTo'o, I guess we didn't mention. I just noticed that. I saw that he was listed as a starter, even though, again, we think they're going to run a 4-2-5. He's a fine coverage guy. Right, younger player, fine coverage guy. He's going to come in when they do run 4-3 because they will run it a little bit. He's not a very good player against the run. Not a very good player against the run.
Yeah.
But I like him in pass coverage, and because of that, he's going to have a role when they run that 4-3 package. But that is all, right? They're not deep beyond that.
And again, as I said before, you could say they're not deep in the others. That's the thing. Young teams tend to, especially young good teams, tend to struggle with depth.
Yes.
And that's just something I think this team, especially anywhere outside of receiver, this team struggles with a little bit. Except maybe tight end too. But anyway.
Well, and O-line after last year, I mean, look, they were able to make up for it.
Yeah.
So, and this is the thing, too. When you have good coaches, you might not have the best depth, but if you're able to really coach up your players to be able to cover for weaknesses, maybe do a schematic change every now and then because a certain player goes down, I think it doesn't really matter about the Jimmys and Joes. If you could win with the X's and O's, it's just fine.
Yep, and let's get into the secondary, and I want to start with their number one corner, Derek Stingley, who they drafted right after Sauce Gardner.
Right before
Sauce Gardner.
Which, it sucks. He'll never get respect now. It doesn't matter how good he is. He'll never be Sauce Gardner. And because of that, it's like, I love Derek Stingley, but every time I look at him, I'm just like, could have been Sauce Gardner.
Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And he got drafted into this. Lovie Smith, who, if you know anything about him, he never runs anything but Tampa 2.
Yeah.
And they drafted a corner to play the flats, essentially, is what they did this
Well,
season.
it's funny that you mentioned that. Lovie Smith said, we like Derek Stingley so much. I know I'm a Tampa 2 guy. We're going to have him man on man. How much did he really do that?
He didn't do that.
He did a little bit, but not much. Not much.
No, he played, it was Tampa 2. He was playing the flats.
But it was also because Stingley wasn't overwhelmingly great that first year.
Sure, absolutely. But when you're being used and not being used correctly, it kind of it's just not ideal situation. DeMeco Ryan comes in here. He's like, okay, you're actually going to be R1. You're going to follow some guys around. You're going to play man coverage. Stingley's turned into a stud. He was fantastic last year.
Yeah. It's because it's match zone. It isn't just zone. It is match zone. And because of that, he's able to use that same man technique, right?
Yes.
And, man, he is dynamic. He's able to make plays constantly. Even just the other day, right? Keep in mind, we're recording this right after the preseason games that happened yesterday. He put against the Giants. And, again, it was preseason, but Daniel Jones threw a ball. And it wasn't a great ball, but Stingley, reached over and picked it off. It was a crazy
covering
play.
Jalen Hyatt, who's very, very fast
Mm-hmm.
player. Derek Stingley has that same athleticism. He's such a fluid mover.
Yeah.
He's such a fluid mover in his hips, with his feet. Derek Stingley entering another year is just only going to get better. And this is a guy that, it sucks because Sauce is going to get all the glory because he's picked the pick after you. Mm-hmm. He's the best corner in football. It's just how it happens. There's a world where Derek Stingley is one of the best, top 5, top 3 corner in football next year.
But again, he won't be Sauce.
It won't be Sauce.
That's the reality there, right?
That's the reality.
Now, right now, there are other outside corners listed as Kamari Lassiter. We're using the R-Lad step chart. Do you think he stays as an outside corner, or do you think he becomes a nickel? Because I thought he was much better as a nickel guy. I think it's a waste to put him outside.
I thought he was a better nickel, too. However, I do like Desmond King at nickel.
That's true, and that's the role he's always
want him off the field.
Yeah,
and I think Kamari Lassiter. Well, I don't think they have really another option outside Kamari. To be honest with you, I don't think there's much there. And Kamari Lassiter can still do it. It's just we have to know what he is. Kamari Lassiter, technique wise, might have been the best corner in this class. He was fantastic when it came to technique. When it came to breaking on footballs. When it came to tackling, I mean, he's the whole package. The issue is, and you saw it at his combine. He's not overly fast. In fact, I would say he's pretty slow for a corner, and he can get beat vertically when he's against better athletes.
And again, this goes back to okay, you're running match zone. When it's more of that zone stuff, he'll excel. When it goes to that man stuff, I don't know. But I'll tell you this, I love his ability to fit the run, and that's why I look at it, and I'm kind of pissed he's not going to be playing nickel. But you're right, Desmond King isn't playing outside. Right? That's never been something he does.
He is the definition of a nickel.
Yeah.
He is a nickel through and through. He's been a nickel. He's been that that nickel for
his entire career. His entire career he's been a nickel. So you're not going to change that now. So, I mean, I get it. I'm just upset by it. It's the right decision, but I'm come on, man. Because I really like him as a nickel guy.
But then we touch on it again. There's not depth here. There's more depth.
They have names.
They have names. They're first round picks who haven't worked out. Yes,
Jeff Okudah and C.J. Henderson, but are they good players? No. I will say this: Jeff Okudah can play a little bit more. He can play. It used to be bad, but now he could go out there a little bit as a depth guy. As a depth guy, he could go out there and he'll be fine. I can't say that about C.J. Henderson. C.J. Henderson might get cut.
Yeah,
he's bad. But again, I just want to say, we've been knocking the depth this entire time, at least defensively. We don't know what these guys are until they play. And I trust DeMeco Ryans. I want to say that, right? I might not like a MJ Stewart or a Chris Boyd or a Mike Ford, but they might be able to come out and play.
Yes.
I don't know. I trust DeMeco, though.
So then you get to the safety room. And it's a fun one, especially with the young guy, Jalen Petrie, and Jimmy Ward, who got brought over from San Francisco when our boy DeMeco Ryans came over. What can you tell me about the safety duo?
The safety duo, man, I really like Jalen Petrie. He plays with his hair on fire, man. And the thing is, he isn't the biggest safety on earth.
No, he's listed as a free safety, which he is. He
But
plays the high safety from a
he
lot of
plays
times.
the high safety, but you wouldn't notice. He reminds me a lot of a Minka Fitzpatrick, right?
Yes,
Because of what he does, right? When you see the linebackers kind of overplay the run, someone needs to. It's weird because they do a very similar thing to the Steelers. The linebackers will step like up to the line of scrimmage, and now what happens if someone gets past the defensive line and the linebackers, right? The linebackers aren't there anymore because they're on the line of scrimmage now. Now someone has to step up and play like that free safety role or
and
that like linebacker role.
and
He steps
Petrie
up from the free
happily
safety
does it,
spot and he
and
does it.
happily
And man, he will. He doesn't care how small he is. He will.
he'll go lay the wood on
Yeah,
somebody.
exactly. And he again plays with his hair on fire. That over aggressiveness can get them killed. It can.
Yes.
But you live and die by the sword. You live and die by the sword. They're gonna be doing that, and for the most part, it's worked for them. No reason to stop until it stops working, right? I love Petrie because of how aggressive he plays. And he's a good coverage guy. Really good coverage guy. Really impressive coverage guy. Then Jimmy Ward is more of that box safety. He's familiar with D'Amico Ryans. He's more of the shot caller on this defense. He's someone who's going to go out there familiar with the scheme. He's someone that consistently will make the right read with, the match zone coverage type stuff. And, he does a good job, right? As someone, matching receivers. And he can also, like I said, fit the run very well.
Yes, he is, and they did draft somebody in third round this year, in Caitlin Bullock.
Mhm.
I wasn't like some huge Bullock guy tape wise. However, he's a toolsy safety, and he's going to be here to develop and sit behind two safeties in a good safety room. And I think he can also play some nickel if Desmond King were to go down, and they just don't want to put out any other outside corners other than Lassiter because they don't feel confident in them. He could play nickel, but yeah, he's just got to mention because they did draft him with a third-round pick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I liked him as like a coverage guy for sure. Now he isn't someone I would love as the nickel because he's not a very good tackler. He's not very good against the run, but he is someone who might be able to come in for a Petrie and be a very very good zone defender. I think he's more of that true free safety. He was someone that I liked. He was someone I was fine with, for sure, right? But overall, it's a good defense. It's just I don't know if they could afford for anyone to go down. I don't know. I like to have faith because, again, I trust Amico, but I look at the starting 11, I feel very good. I look at the back 11, or I guess everyone else, I guess that would be what, the back 30, 25-ish?
Yeah.
I don't feel too great about that,
Yeah.
But, again, we'll see. We'll see, right? I trust Amico. I trust him to coach these guys up. Like I said, maybe a Agam McTelvin is a much better player than I think he is, right? We don't know what's going to happen there. Now let's move over to defensive superlatives. Defensive player of the year, who do you have? There's a lot of choices you can make here.
There's a ton of choices here. I think I'm going to go with Aziz Al-Shaair.
I was thinking about it. I was like, I want to push a narrative today. But go ahead. Give your explanation.
No, because again, Aziz Al-Shaair was really good in San Francisco, and that was their third guy essentially. He was behind Drake Greenlaw and Fred Warner, but even so, he made plays. And Tennessee was like, "We see that, come on over." Just wasn't quite the same player with Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Now he gets to come back he's not old. He's 27 years old.
Yep.
He gets to come back with D'Amico Ryans, where he's the star. D'Amico Ryans knows exactly how to use him. I think Aziz Al-Shaair is in for a huge season.
Yeah, again, I was thinking about him. I definitely was. But I think an off-ball linebacker. They have other really good players, more proven players as of late that play more valuable positions. Was thinking Will Anderson. Was thinking even Danielle Hunter, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, absolutely.
But I'm going Derek Stingley.
Hey, okay.
I am. I think that Stingley is a guy who, again, I think he's going to be overshadowed his entire career. I do. But he's going to quietly be shutting down some of the best receivers in the NFL week after week after week, right? And I think when the season ends and he only allowed a 35% completion rate, people are going to look and be like, oh, he was really good. Right. Like, I think no one's going to notice it during the season, but when the season ends and we're looking back, we're like, oh, shit, this guy was good. I'm a big fan of what Stingley's been doing recently. And I'm not going to lie, I'm someone that was a little bit lower on him coming out of college. So seeing him blow up the way he has, from like a coverage standpoint, how effective he's been recently, I've really had my mind changed by his recent film. So I'm a fan of his game. Who do you have as your defensive rookie of the year? I feel like there's really only one pick. I mean, maybe
Yeah,
go
there's
Bullock.
really only one pick. You could go with Bullock, and that's kind of depending just what happens with this room. Like, does Desmond King get hurt, and then Kamari Lassiter moves down the nickel? Like, even then, it'd be like Kamari Lassiter's gonna be really good at nickel, I think. So
Yeah.
I'd still pick Lassiter. So I'll go with Kamari Lassiter. It's been a pretty simple one here.
I'm going Kamari. I mean, I really like what he does against the run. We won't see it much, but when they throw screen passes, oh boy, he will light it up. And he's still a very good coverage guy too, right? So I agree, Kamari. Now, what is your X factor? And you said your 12th man on the last side, right? Or not Noah Brown?
No. We picked Noah Brown.
We both did? Okay.
Yeah, okay. So my X factor on the defense is going to be Danielle Hunter. I think it's like him coming in and reverting, kind of like you said, he has a chance back in this like scheme that fits him. He reverts back to that really, really good elite edge rusher, not elite, but like really, really good edge rusher, and having that across from Will Anderson. Like again, Grenard was good last year, absolutely. If you can get that from Neil Hunter, this defense is going to be a pain in the butt, man.
So, I like where your head's at because I also went with the defensive line. But I feel very certain that Danielle Hunter will be that guy for them. And because I went with someone who's a little bit more of a question in terms of how good they'll be. We know they'll be good. The question is how good. Mario Edwards, right?
Yeah.
Can he fill that Sheldon Rankins role? Can he be that effective? We need to see. I kind of doubt it. But again, if he can be, that's going to be huge for them. Now I want to move over to special teams really quick. They have Tommy Townsend. He was fine. Right, both their kicker and punter were fine last year. Kiami, thank you. Fairbairn, fine kicker. Tommy Townsend, fine punter, right? And then we move over to the returners, right? Steven Sims, Damian Pierce, Tank Dell might get out there, but I think they're going to be a little bit worried about injury.
They won't. After the injury last year, they won't let him they won't let him return. So.
And then, I mean, that's the thing, right? They're so deep at wide receiver. Maybe Robert Woods goes out there. If Cam Akers stays on the roster, he might go there. But they're so deep at receiver, yet they have so few guys. Maybe Skoranek? They have so few guys that I love as after-catch threats. Maybe Quintez Cephas if he makes the roster. I don't know. I don't really love their...
there's just not a lot. Yeah, there's just not a lot happening here when it comes to the...
Desmond King used to have that juice as a returner. He's older now.
Let it go.
Yeah, let it go. Put the fries in the bag, bro.
Put the fries in the bag, bro.
Yeah. So, I don't love the returning group. This is actually the first team in a while where I wasn't a big fan of the returning group.
Yeah.
But I do like some of the pieces they have as, like, go out there on special teams. Even though I don't think Desmond King is going to be a great returner, I think he will be an impactful special teamer. If he doesn't start. If he starts, though, he probably won't do much. Okay. And now back to my special teams rant. They have Cade Stover, who I think could go out there, do some damage. He's an athlete more than anything and a good blocker. Neville Hewitt is a linebacker I think could go out there and contribute. But like I said, they're not overly deep, so I don't know how many guys I really trust. Now we move over to the prediction. Right? Tell me, what is your floor for this team?
I think the floor for this team is like... Okay, so we'll get into it. This schedule is ridiculous. This schedule might be the hardest in the league. I won't lie. I think the absolute floor is 8-9. I think that's as low as
I said 9-8, but I can absolutely respect 8-9. What do you think the ceiling is?
I think the ceiling for this team is 13-4.
Yep, same thing. What did you put for your prediction?
I think I'm going 10-7.
Wow. Okay, I looked at...
The schedule is ridiculous.
It is a tough schedule, but I think the Texans are that good. I have them as 12-5.
That's totally fine. Totally fine.
So let's dive into it. Week 1 is not an easy one against the Colts in Indy.
In Indianapolis.
Division rivalry. How do you feel here?
I think this... I don't know. I really don't know just yet. We'll see how both teams do week 1, but... It's going to be Anthony Richardson against C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud's going to have a real nice time against this cover 3 Gus Bradley defense. He's going to be able to put up points. We don't know Well, we know Anthony Richardson's going to be good. We don't know how good Anthony Richardson in this
I'll
offense
say
is
this,
gonna
though. Christian Harris, as a QB spy, give him the same treatment he gave Lamar.
be. Yes.
Feel good. I feel good about their ability to kind of shut down that
This is also
QB
an
run.
offensive line that is able to handle the edge rushers of this Texans
Sure,
team.
sure.
This is an offensive line that it's going to be able to run the ball on this Texans team. Like this is just going to be a really good game for both matchups. I think they split. I think they're going to split this season.
If one team were to win both, I feel like this is the most frustrating team to give you that question for. But if one team were to win both, who do you think?
Probably the Texans.
I feel good about the Texans winning both. I actually do. Not just as an answer to that question. I expect the Texans to win both. I truly do.
I don't. I think the Colts are going to pick up one of these games. I think this division's between them and the Colts. And it's gonna be
I agree that the division is between those two, but I think the Texans, like, they have the pieces to stop AR. They have the secondary to stop that receiver core. And I think they have the linebackers to prevent Jonathan Taylor from going too crazy on him. Right? And then I look at the offense and how it matches up against that defense. I think C.J. Stroud and Bobby Slowick, they're going to expose that cover 3 constantly.
So we'll see how this goes. I think they're going to split. Yeah. Let's go to week 2, Bears at Texans. I feel pretty good about the Texans in this win. D'Amico Ryans against Caleb Williams. I feel good about the Texans here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Bears defense should be able to give them some fits. They have the secondary to match up with this receiving core. Yes. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I do think they're going to really immunize that pass rush. I don't think they kind of have the bodies to really get to Stroud here. And I think giving Stroud time is really dangerous. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's going to matter here. I think it's going to come down to the Bears pass rush against a scheme that really likes to have extra bodies in protection.
So then we got Stephon Gilmore versus Nico Collins in this day and age, and I just don't think this Vikings defense is going to be able to do much against.
The only thing is, can Flores force C.J. Stroud to make rookie mistakes? Probably not. He doesn't tend to do that. The only team that made him make rookie mistakes was the Jonathan Gannon-led Cardinals. So we'll see. Then Jacksonville, that's a division rival. I feel good about the Texans winning both. I mean, maybe if Trevor Lawrence makes some magic happen, they win one.
Here's the thing: their second, which we'll get to in Week 13, their second game, they're playing in Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's off of a bye, so it's going to be a tough.
But the Texans are coming off of a game against the Titans, so are they really off a bye?
Sure, but division, I'd say if they weren't in the same division, the division rivalries are always going to be.
Yeah,
somewhat.
That's true. That's true.
So,
I still feel pretty good about the Texans at least.
I think I think they'll probably win both, but I think that Jacksonville game off the bye is going to be tough because Jacksonville is still going to be tough.
Yeah. Then Buffalo
here. Buffalo's got a chance to beat them. I feel good about the Texans here, though. I think these receivers, the Stephon Diggs revenge game. He might not even do a whole lot, but I do think the Texans are going to win.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Josh Allen having a day, though.
Yes.
And I think if Josh Allen has a day, I think this defense can stop the Texans a little bit.
I think they can, too.
But I also look at it, I think schematically, what does McDermott like to run? Oh, out of, soft zone, a decent amount at least.
And here's the thing, I'm not entirely certain. Yeah, I mean, with Ed Oliver there, if they put him over, Kenyon Green and everything, they might be able to get some pressure on Stroud. But if he's rushing against Shaq Mason, who he'll be able to get his wins on. I don't know how often they'll be able to get pressure on C.J. Stroud. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. The Bills. I mean, you can say the same thing about every Bills game. Josh Allen has a day. You can beat anybody.
Yeah. In fact, I believe that's what we did when we did the Bills video. So
is Josh Allen going to have a day? Yes. No. Okay.
Yeah. It's just a coin flip every game with the Bills. So then the Patriots.
You feel good about the Texans.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way. I mean, upsets happen, but no. Packers. This is where a tough stretch happens for them.
This is a tough streak. I like the Packers here.
I get it.
I think. Yeah.
I think they have the guys that could go man-to-man with this group, right? Yes. And I think they have a defensive line. They have the guys that can
get some pressure on
this
group.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they very much have guys that can get
and
pressure
then with the safeties they have, I think the explosive plays will be limited. I like Green Bay. Here. I agree. Then the Colts.
We touched on the Colts already.
Yeah. So, does much change with this matchup? No, not really.
No, not really. This is really. I think both of these games are going to be close, fun games to watch. But yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's go. Let's go to week 9. They're playing primetime football against the Jets, and this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be very fun.
Yeah.
Robert Salah versus D'Amico Ryans, two former Shanahan defensive coordinators, or 49ers defensive coordinators, I should say. And it'd be interesting to see how, because C.J. Stroud had a really bad outing against this defense last year. It was in the rain. Keep in mind, it was in the rain. It was pouring rain. But C.J. Stroud was rough. This was one of probably his worst game of the season. Was against
this in the Cardinals game.
Yes, this in the Cardinals game. Worst games of the season for him. And does that continue? Do they, is Sauce Gardner just going to lock up whoever he's on again? Probably. But then it goes the same for the Jets. This is are they healthy? Are there people healthy on this Jets team, right? That's kind of what you have to ask. On offense especially. How's Aaron Rodgers looking against what should be a good defense? I think Derek Stingley is somebody that can match up with Garrett Wilson. Is Mike Williams healthy? Like that's really the question with the Jets, as it will be all season for them. I feel good leaning the Texans here, but I think there's a world where the Jets win this game for sure.
Yeah, it's a really, really tough one. The only thing I could say, Texans pass rush might be a big X factor here. That, I think, dictates the game.
Yes.
That I truly do think. Because the Jets, they're going to be forced to respect the run, but they still have the guys in their secondary still play the pass very well. It's tough. It's a tough one. I think
Quentin Williams against Kenyon Green and Drew Scruggs. That's going to be a lot of pressure.
But they're going to have guys in protection. They are.
Yes.
So that's the good thing there. But will the Jets send people, right? Does Salah start to blitz in this one? I don't know. It should be an interesting one. You know who is going to send people, though? Detroit. And that's why I think Detroit might win this one. I think Detroit schematically just matches up well here.
Matches up well. And they're just, again, there's a reason Detroit has not been said yet. Detroit is a very good football team.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is not a loss where you're like, dang, we lost to Detroit. This is, dang, we lost to one of the best teams in football.
Yeah,
happens.
Right. On primetime, though.
On primetime, anything can happen, of course.
Yeah.
The Battle of Texas here. The Texans are the better team. This just feels, I don't know, in my gut, I feel like the Cowboys just eke out a win here.
I get it. I absolutely do.
This is the one game where Jerry's like, we cannot lose.
Primetime television, we got to win it.
Not
against Texas.
Team in Texas, we have to win. I will cut all of you.
This is where we see CeeDee Lamb complete a touchdown pass to like Zach Martin, something like that. Like this is where we see Brandon Aubrey throw his first career touchdown pass, something like that, right? This is going to be a fun one. I think this will be a fun game.
We'll have to go back to the Dallas Cowboys schedule and we'll make sure that Week 10's a loss because they didn't prepare for that game at all. They take 2 weeks preparing for the Texans.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, poor Houston, coming off of Packers, Colts, Jets, Lions, when all the Cowboys are thinking about is playing against them. And you already know, the Cowboys probably have a stretch of 2 games against Washington, a game against Daniel Jones and the Giants, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no. Week 12, though, we get Tennessee. Division rivalry game. This is the first one.
It's always going to be somewhat close. This team, Texas, is just a better team than the Titans are. It's just that simple.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely get you there. The Titans. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I think really gives the Titans problems here is just the It's hard to predict what happens with Levis. He is chaos.
Again, it kind of fits under the whole Josh Allen thing of if Will Levis is good, the Titans should be pretty good.
Well, I think there's some teams that are more vulnerable to that than others, right?
Yes.
It depends on how much they can light up that scoreboard. Then we get a game against the Jaguars, right?
We touched on this is the Jag coming off a bye.
Yes.
This is gonna be tough. This is gonna be a tough game no matter which way you look at it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Again, if Lawrence has a good day, that's big. There's some quarterbacks in this league that are really just chaos, right? And what sucks is when these teams are dependent on that. The Jaguars are one of those teams that are dependent on their quarterback having a good day. Yeah, no, I don't know what I'm thinking here. It's a strange one.
If you this is a tough one. This is gonna be a tough one for the
I think they
Texans.
could get caught sleeping before the bye and lose.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right, but then they have their bye and then they play against Miami. Miami loses against worse teams. It's just that
loses
simple.
against worse teams.
Yep.
Now I will
Or
say,
loses against better teams.
this
Sorry.
will be Anthony Weaver. This Anthony Weaver's defense, Week 15. How good is this Dolphins defense going to be? Are they healthy? Because this is a team that, yes, with their edge rushers, they can get pressure on C.J. Stroud. And C.J. Stroud's not super effective at pressure or anything, but when you get to the quarterback, you can get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. It'll be a tougher game, but yeah, I feel good about the Texans enough to buy here.
Absolutely.
Then we get Texans at Chiefs.
Yeah.
This is entering that point in the season where we're kind of past the Chiefs dropping games for no reason part of the season where they're kind of locking in. I feel good about the Chiefs and Arrowhead here.
I think this might be game of the year.
Yes.
Late in the season, these two teams. I guess I go Chiefs. It's in Arrowhead. Let's give it to them. Baltimore.
Ravens at Texans.
Yeah.
I feel good about Baltimore here. Not Baltimore, sorry. Texans here.
Christmas. Christmas game. We
Christmas
saw Lamar
game.
on Christmas before, and he didn't look... Or no, he won that game.
Yeah,
That's my bad. I was thinking of Brock Purdy. I mean...
anything is... This is a tough game. This is in the cold. These guys going to be tackling Derrick Henry for...
But the Texans won this matchup last time, but that was no Derrick Henry.
Well, the Ravens won this matchup.
Well, the Ravens won the matchup, but I liked what
You're right.
they showed a formula. You're right. Like, they won it, but there's a reason people left that first quarter and they were like, oh, man, the Ravens look human, right?
Yeah.
And, like, there's a reason why, if I loosely think back to that game, it feels like such a, Texans win, right? Because what they were doing schematically was, the blueprint to how to beat Lamar, right? The stuff they were doing with Christian Harris, again, was so big. And it's like, how do they counter that? What is their counter punch here? We saw the counter punch later on in that game. Will that counter punch work? I think this will be dictated a lot by what both coaches see from the film last year.
Right.
That's how I look at that. Baltimore might have won last time. I think Texans win this time.
Yep. And then we're going to get there's a world where Levis sucks and they put Malik Willis in Week 18 and Malik Willis
Titans win.
400 yards. Okay, Titans win.
Yep. Yeah, that feels like that. I like that reality. Let's go with that one. Yeah. No. Yeah. I like that. Okay, we're ending it there. Thank you all.
Okay, my prediction now is 11-6.
Yeah. Yep. I like it. Thank you all for watching, and Dean, this is your channel, so you go ahead and end it.
Yep. Again, thank you all for tuning in to this installment of the 2024 Preseason Power Rankings. If you enjoy the video, please feel free to subscribe to the channel and channels, including his, which you'll find in the description, and like the video. Please keep in mind the evens come out on my channel. We only have 3 more videos now. There's going to be 3 more videos between the two of us. So yeah, the evens come out on my channel. The odds come out on his. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. The final 3, top 3 teams.
And then we get to start our XFL rankings. There we go.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.